An autopsy is an examination carried out on a dead body primarily to ascertain the cause of the death. But the heartbreaking report by the pathologist on the death of Nigerian singer Ilerioluwa Aloba, popularly known as Mohbad, left more questions and concerns. Despite hopes that an autopsy will expose the circumstances surrounding Mohbad's death, the report couldn't determine the cause of his death. The pathologist noted that the body of the deceased had decomposed before the examination, which makes the result unclear. He, however, said his death may be linked to reactions to some drugs administered on him before he died. Sonny, I don't get. I don't get. I thought the autopsy was going to, unravel the mystery behind the death of this young man.
Yeah, that was my expectation too. I'm somewhat disappointed that the outcome threw up nothing other than what the public knew. But it's really a pity that someone's death has thrown up this level of controversy and concerns within the public domain. Well, in some cases, they would have moved on. In some situations, they would have said, well, let's leave everything to God who created him. But given the situation in which we have found ourselves, it is important that some more investigation should be done. I don't think it is good enough to leave that matter at that point.
Inconclusive.
Yes, inconclusive. It's not helpful, especially given all the concerns surrounding his death. I would say that that matter should be taken to the next level. Is that all that science and technology can do? Obviously not. So they should push the frontiers to get to the roots of what killed the man. Except at the end of the day, if it is conclusively reported that this man died of natural causes, which is not inevitable in human life, then we leave it there. But to leave it at that deadlock zone, it is not good enough. So I think it should be taken further.
Julie, I think the first mistake was to bury him immediately. They would have tarried a while before, the burial, but taking him under for 2 or 3 days before, evacuating the dead body complicated things.
Yes, as we have seen, according to his father, because of his young age, he was under pressure to bury him early. And when this sort of thing happens, all kinds of advisors and hangers-on will come around and say, look, this is the tradition in this place. The boy was not buried in urban Lagos. He was buried in downtown Ikorodu, in a kind of rural Ikorodu. And people tend to respect culture and all that in such places. They still carry oro, they still do rituals even in broad daylight in some of those places.
So still observe oro.
And they will, yes, that's what I meant by rituals. Traditional rituals. They will tell people to stay indoors and all that. So according to his father, he was under tremendous pressure to go bury him quickly. If he was older, they could even wait for months. But as far as they are concerned, not bury him quickly would even deepen the grief. So that was a big mistake at the time. But I still think that the report that the police presented to us on Friday, the 6th of October 2023, indicating that an unqualified nurse played a big part in his death by the nature of the 3 injections administered on him. According to the police report that was presented by the then Commissioner of Police, Lagos State, Owonwa, who is now an AIG, doses of the drugs injected on Mohbad triggered different reactions, including convulsion, goose pimples, and vomiting. And doctors have analyzed, based on the knowledge of those injections, that those injections triggered his death. The moment he began to convulse, you know what that means, and he was vomiting, and he had goose bumps all over. It was clear that his death was just a matter of time. So, in my view, that should have been pursued further.
Yes.
If you were not qualified to play that role, yes, a mistake was made. They should have taken him to hospital where they had the facility, the equipment to run all kinds of checks before determining what kind of injection to administer. That didn't happen. But the nurse was limited in terms of what was available to her.
Yeah.
And what she administered on him triggered a very negative chain of reactions. And in my view, this should have been investigated further. And if the nurse, because that's what happened in the case of Senator Adeleke, if you remember.
Yes.
And the nurse,
yes,
that nurse was put on trial. Because the nurse inappropriately treated him. And this is a lesson to us all. Don't get a nurse to administer treatment on you beyond his or her pay grade.
Over the counter.
Those things are better done by doctors. Because in the course of even administering the treatment, if there was an emergency, she does not have the capacity to deal with the emergency. So we are just, I'm not a doctor, but I think that there was a lead there that they could have followed. There was a lead there. I listened to different doctors who said, if indeed those were the injections that the girl gave him, then we didn't need to look too far for the reason of his death, so the reason behind his death. So I think that that is an area that they could have pursued further. And if it's necessary to put the fellow on trial, they need to do that. But having waited, this thing is over. The boy died in September. We are close to 1 year, and we are just hearing that, look, this whole thing has been a waste of time. And because if we cannot find the true cause of his death, having waited, having sent samples abroad, then it amounts to a waste of time, in my view.
And at the end of the day, you know, it became even more famous after death, and the music and everything. I didn't even know the songs before he died, like but immediately he died, it picked up, everywhere, topped the chart and everything. And he says about our system, the way they went, the way it was handled, and this young man petitioned the police when he was still alive, that some people were after him, he was said to have been traumatized, and after his death, so many things unfolded. But this autopsy just showed that, like, they've got into a dead end.
But again, it's unfortunate too. The criminal justice system in the country, under that system, what was done, the people who were accused of having a hand, those who threatened Mohbad while he was alive, what evidence did the police find? What was done? They were accused that the system should have followed up on. What was done? But again, it shows the level of helplessness that the ordinary citizen in the country has been exposed to. Because the leads, those leads should have helped. But now we're talking about medicine after death. It's gone. And with this autopsy report now, the end has come. That is
difficult to prosecute anybody.
The end of that matter. Because in science they will say the matter is autopsy, which means whatever would have helped to find the cause had decomposed, everything had died. That's what they say, autopsy. So there's nothing that can be possibly done except they may say, okay, let's invite some other specialists. If the country wants to push the frontiers of this case, they can still do so. It's not too late. Somebody can die for years, but they will bring the DNA, everything.
The report of the coroner's inquest is not out. Maybe the coroner's inquest will, in its report, recommend the prosecution of some individuals.
Okay.
Because those who are harassing him, using cutlass to chase him up and down, there are videos.
Sure.
You know, using cutlass to disrupt the shooting of a musical that he was recording. I mean, that was on record.
Yes.
Being beaten and blood oozing out of his body is on record. We saw those videos, and that was what triggered the the anger of the ordinary Nigerian. We saw those processions calling for the prosecution of those people. But as I read, even the nurse, the auxiliary nurse, has not been formally charged.
But in the first place, why did they go to a hospital where auxiliary nurse was on duty?
No, they invited
at home.
They invited, and that's why we are saying, look, when there's an emergency, the four walls of your home does not have the kind of equipment that
will support
you can use to quickly
attend,
arrest. So it was a very big mistake that the family made, Mohbad and his wife and his friends. They should have taken him to a proper hospital. You know, who knows? He most likely would have been alive if he had received the right
proper treatment
instead of getting an auxiliary nurse somewhere.